Okay, this is Jayhawk Scott again, and I have completed my second go with the 3 Days of Darkness, and I'm using the media reactor with some GFO in it, so my phosphates are still 0, but I'm still struggling with hair algae. I'm not sure. I've also seen things about raising the magnesium level in the tank, and I may end up trying that, but right now I've been just kind of hoping that by eliminating the phosphates and doing the 3 Days of Darkness that I would be able to get the hair algae to go away. That clearly has not happened. As you can see, I still got hair algae. So here is my plan now. What I've got here is I've got a couple buckets. Both these are filled with RODI water. Whoops, sorry. And my plan is to pull the rocks out of the tank, put them in the RODI water, and scrub them with the toothbrush. And do the scrubbing in one bucket, and then kind of rinse them off in the other bucket, and then I'll put them back in the tank. So I know that my phosphates are still really low because I'm not having to clean the glass at all. So that's my plan. I'm going to go ahead and break open the top of the tank, take the stuff into the tubs, scrub them down, and put them back in there. I'll show you kind of what I'm doing. It's not going to be too terribly exciting, but it's a learning experience. Okay, so I got my first piece of rock here, and I've just kind of started scrubbing on it. I'm fortunate in that I really don't have anything else on the rocks, hardly, so I'm not really concerned about killing anything. And I'm just wanting to get the hair algae off. As you can see, every time I dip it in there, I get more algae to come off of there. So I'm just kind of working my way around with the toothbrush, and I'll tell you what, it is so much easier to make sure I'm getting all sides of this rock with it out of the tank. With it sitting in the tank, it's really hard to see what you're doing after a while because you get so much crap floating around in the tank. Now if you've got a large tank with a lot of rock, I don't know how practical doing this is, but I definitely think that this will be the most effective way of doing it. But I think if you have a large tank and you want to clean it in the tank, you just have to make a point to kind of go after it every day a little bit and slowly get the algae off of the rock. So I think this one's pretty much done. I'm just going to dip it here in the rinse bucket. One of the things you can tell, I definitely can see that my RODI system is working pretty well. You can see the difference between the two buckets, and this is just a little rock, and it didn't have a whole lot of hair on it, so it's not one of the big problem rocks. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing them, and we'll see where I get to, and put the tank back together, and then hopefully we'll get rid of this algae finally once and for all. Okay, so I've cleaned all the rock, and I put the rock back in the tank. You can't see much in there because it's really stirred up. I just turned the pumps back on. I've got some of the algae floating around in there, but most of it, as you can see, is down here in the bucket. That's the first bucket, and it's pretty nasty. And second one over here is still relatively clean, but you know, it was the rinse bucket. I think using the two buckets was a good idea. I think if I had to do it again, I probably would use salt water instead of just DI water. But my large toadstool, I did not put in just the DI water because I didn't want to have any problems with it. So we'll see what it looks like in the morning. The rocks are not really organized in there because, like I said, I couldn't hardly see anything once I started putting the stuff back in. So I'll have to do the aquascaping of it again. But I think I certainly got rid of a lot of algae on a lot of the rocks. So I'd say I probably got 90% of it out of there. So we'll see what how it holds up and if it starts to come back. So I'm going to treat with another dose of the waste away and check it out tomorrow. And up until now I had been really pretty lazy about scrubbing the rocks. I just kind of, like I said, hoped to see if just by restricting the phosphates and eliminating the phosphates that I could eliminate the hair algae, but in this case I couldn't. So it is a much more manual process than I had hoped. So I just keep scrubbing and just keep plugging away. So I think I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll have a little update video tomorrow so you can see what the tank looks like after the scrubbing. Okay, so this is Jayhawk Scott, and today is February the 21st, and this is going to be the final segment in my hair algae issue with my BioCube. Zoom in here a little bit and you can see that the hair algae is gone, and I've been able to get rid of it, and it has not come back. So I've been pretty happy with the outcome here. I did learn quite a bit from it, and when I first started the process, I started scrubbing the rocks a little bit. I did the big water change, and I added new GFO and the separate carbon in media bags in the back of the BioCube, and I thought that would take care of it. After a week or so of scrubbing algae on the rocks, I think I just got lazy a little bit, and I just really went to trying to control the phosphate level. And I found that by just using the ChemiPure and the extra GFO, that I wasn't able to get the phosphates all the way down to 0. So I added the media reactor. That dropped my phosphates to 0. I tried on 2 separate stints of the 3 days of darkness, and I went 4 days, and that seemed to help a little bit, but I was really kind of disappointed by the results from that. So in the end, I pulled out the rocks and I scrubbed them down, and I physically removed the algae off the rocks that way. If I don't have a lot growing on my rocks, so it's not that big of a deal. If you had a lot more growing on your rocks, I'm confident that if you had the patience, you could just slowly scrub the rocks in the tank and ultimately solve the problem there. But for me, it was just easier to pull them out because I didn't have that many rocks, and like I said, I wasn't really concerned about anything growing on the rocks. So that's what I did. If I was dealing with this, say, in my larger tank, my approach to it would be similar, but I would not be looking to pull the rocks out. What I really learned from this is there's a couple of things that you have to do, and there's not any one quick fix to this. It's all about good tank husbandry, and typically you're not going to have problems with hair algae if you have good tank husbandry. And so, you do your water changes on a regular basis. You make sure you keep your phosphates at 0, and the best way to do that, I think, is with GFO in a media reactor. And once I added that, my phosphates rapidly came down and went to 0. And it seemed like at the beginning, when I would scrub the algae off of some rocks, it would kind of come back. But once I got the phosphates down to 0, I was really able to remove the algae, and it didn't ever come back. So if I was giving suggestions to people, my first suggestion would be look at your phosphates and address that first. Work on getting your phosphates down, and while you're bringing your phosphates down, do a large water change that will help your phosphate level. And then once the phosphate level is down to 0, then I would really start scrubbing the rocks. You can do some of that before. I mean, you're not going to hurt it, but my guess is you probably will end up going back and re-hitting some areas if you haven't addressed your phosphates fully. 3 days of darkness didn't seem to do a lot of good for me. I think it helped a little bit, but like I said, again, it was not the cure-all that I thought it would be. So what I learned is that if you take care of the tank beforehand, you're not going to have the phosphate and the hair algae problems. So watch what you're feeding. Don't overfeed your fish, because that's one way that you really introduce a lot of phosphates into the tank. Watch what kind of food you're putting in the tank. Some foods have more phosphates in them than others, and just monitor that phosphate level. And you know, I was using that HANA checker to check my phosphates, and I think those are great tools, but you could really tell looking at this tank when my phosphate levels were at 0 by how quickly the glass would get algae build up on it. At the beginning I'd scrub the glass, and then it seemed like a day or two later I'd be scrubbing it again. Now here at the end, I think I've scrubbed the glass once in the last 2 weeks. Once I got the phosphates down, it just makes life a lot easier. So it's kind of, if you want to make life hard, let them get out of control. If you want to make it easy, watch them and stay on top of them. And if you start seeing algae growth on your glass, check your phosphates and replace your media. So that's about all I got. If you've got any questions or suggestions on my video, please don't hesitate to leave comments and rate my video. I also want to thank all of my new subscribers and all of my old subscribers. I hope you're finding the videos to be helpful, and I will see you all on the next one. Thanks.